The Gilded Age is back this week with episode 3, and all I can think about is that ending. All of Gladys's pearls falling to the floor felt like it symbolized her world about to come crashing down. This was a great episode of the show that didn't really have any happy moments, with Arthur feeling judged by Dr. Kirkland's mother, Ada mourning Luke, Agnes feeling like she's being left out of society, Jack not getting anywhere with his clock, and Gladys ending up accepting the engagement to the Duke. It's not a good time in the Gilded Age. So with that, let's dive into this episode and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 3, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Gladys and the Duke. These two faces sum up the entire situation. Bertha is emitting the largest smile out of everybody in the room with the announcement of Gladys's engagement to the Duke of Buckingham, and George, on the other hand, is concerned for his daughter because he can see just how much she truly doesn't want to be with him, but he's not doing anything about it. It was an episode of two halves in the sense that the Duke didn't want to accept George's offer, which matched the money that Bertha promised him, but George was allocating the extra to go to Gladys for an allowance. This was something that the Duke didn't want, showing that he truly didn't care about Gladys in the slightest and that he just wanted money. It was only through Bertha saying to him how when you're married, what's hers will become yours was where he realized that he'd still have access to the money. So it showed the business transaction nature of it. This is the last thing that Gladys wants. She wants to marry for love, and when she said to her father, "You said that I could marry for love, you gave your word," it was quite literally heartbreaking. The only reason that I feel she went through with it at the end was because she heard the bad news about how Billy no longer wanted to be with her and that he'd moved on. So in her heartbroken state, she took solace in the fact that there was somebody for her, but it was more so because she was backed into a corner by her mother. With her constantly playing with the pearls that were around her neck, it felt like it was almost like a nervous fidget that she was doing because of everything that was going on and the attention that was on her. So with them falling onto the ground, it felt like it was symbolic of the fact that not only Gladys's, but the Russells' world could well come crumbling down. We know that Gladys is uncertain about the wedding. It feels like Bertha is neglecting her family and her relationship with her husband in order to put this wedding first. But as well as that, we know that George is gambling more than what he's got with this railroad project that he's working on in Arizona. So that could potentially come back to get the family too. Could the Russells end up having a fall from grace in many aspects of their lives? Business, success, society, and love are all key themes that are being explored in this show, and they're all being delved into within the Russell story. So I'm intrigued to see just how each of their stories are going to unfold. Bertha is quite literally like a dog with a bone in the sense that she doesn't stop until she gets what she wants. Like I said, that smile on her face, even though her daughter was extremely unhappy, showed that she truly didn't care. Whilst she said how she was doing it because it would allow her daughter to make a difference in the world and she'd be the envy of almost every woman in society, Bertha is actually doing it because she knows what it will do to the family's name in society and how it will elevate her position even more. With her also finding out about Larry and Marian in this episode because her maid walked in on them sharing a kiss. I wonder if she's going to eventually move on to Larry and Marian and maybe her distaste towards her. The Scotts. Peggy Scott's story is one that's starting to morph into a wider one, which is involving her family, and it's really shining a light on black culture and the division that was present between black people during the time. Peggy and Dr. Kirkland were on a walk along the cliffside, and it seemed like there was a romantic edge to their interactions, which was good for Peggy because they both seemed to like each other. However, it was when Arthur was in Newport and he met Dr. Kirkland's mother where he was ostracized by her and she was judging him for a number of different reasons. Arthur was once an enslaved man in the South, compared to the likes of the Kirklands, who were from the North and came from a lineage of successful and educated folk. Arthur actually went up north following being emancipated due to the opportunities that were there, and that was where he set up his business. However, Mrs. Kirkland was looking down on Arthur because she didn't view him on the same level as her. It showed how detached Mrs. Kirkland was from everything that Arthur had been through, and that she truly did look down on those that weren't from the same background as her. So it made him think that Peggy and Dr. Kirkland wouldn't be a good match because she'd forever be involved. Peggy's mother also had the same concerns, and following Arthur leaving, she mentioned how she didn't want Peggy to wind up being a part of that family because it would mean that she'd most likely be looked down upon the entire time that they're together. So it's going to be interesting to see if Peggy ends up feeling that same prejudice from the likes of Dr. Kirkland's mother, and if it will ultimately drive her away from the very person that it seems like she could well be in love with. In the Weeks Ahead trailer, Mr. Fortune actually appeared when both Peggy and Dr. Kirkland were together. So I wonder if some kind of love triangle might end up forging between the three, and Peggy will have to pick between Dr. Kirkland and Mr. Fortune. Agnes and Ada. The two sisters are still at each other's throats over who rules the roost. With Ada being the person that pays the wages for each of the servants, she is technically in charge, but Agnes is feeling the weight of not having money and it potentially making her an outcast of society. For example, there was a donation from the house to a charity and Ada's name was mentioned, not Agnes's, which sent her into a bit of a spiral. Plus, with her maid signing Ada's pledge for temperance, it made her feel like her own staff didn't even respect her anymore. So her head was quite literally all over the place, and the division between the two sisters was growing more and more fierce. What we saw with Ada, though, was that the thing that mattered most to her was that she was mourning her late husband, Reverend Luke Forte. This was the entire reason as to why she wanted the servants to sign the pledge, because in her eyes it was her way of carrying on his acts of helping people. With her going to the kitchen during the night, she saw Bauer, and it was here where she recommended her to go and find a way of being able to speak with Luke again. It feels like it's gonna be some kind of spiritual person that makes out like they can talk to the dead, and this could actually be something that Ada ends up believing and getting sucked into because she's quite a gullible individual. The divide between sisters is something that I think will continue to develop, but I think that Ada might end up handing power back over to Agnes because the atmosphere in the house most likely won't get any better until Agnes feels more like herself again. Agnes did pose the question, what if success and money doesn't bring happiness, when she was speaking with Jack? And I feel she asked this because she's unhappy now because she doesn't have any of that anymore. Jack. Jack and Larry went to several business meetings about his clock in this episode, and we saw that none of them bid following Larry's pitch. However, with Mr. Weston, Larry didn't know the answer to one of the questions, and Jack got involved and spoke up, speaking directly to him and providing all of the answers that were needed. Larry was skeptical at first, but then we saw Jack getting into the groove and being in the conversation and truly feeling like a businessman. Even though he went back to his quarters and was miserable, especially feeling like this is the opportunity that could quite literally change his life, Mrs. Armstrong did give him a glimmer of hope, and I do actually think that Jack's idea will get picked up and we'll see a true American dream story where he goes from being a footman to a successful businessman. My review of the episode. Like I said at the start, this episode didn't really have any happy endings for anybody. For Gladys, it was awful, but I would say that I kind of like the fact that there wasn't any happy endings, because it still means that there are a ton of different directions that the show can go in for the remaining 5 episodes. I'm actually really enjoying seeing the divide that's forming between Bertha and George, and it all being summed up by the way that they're speaking to each other and also their facial expressions. George represents love and wants to protect his daughter, but he's just not putting his foot down. And the sad thing is, who knows what Gladys could potentially be driven to if she feels like she's got nobody in her corner. Larry and Marian is a relationship that I'd say that I'd like to see a little bit more of over the next few episodes. We don't truly know what the reception from everybody will be like when they get announced, and Marian still doesn't know if Larry is with her because he truly loves her. So it feels like there could be drama at the heart of both of these characters, but one which will most likely have a bit more of a happy ending because they're very well suited. The topic of black culture and the divide that was present back then is a subject that I've not really seen explored before. So this is an avenue of the show that I'm also hoping will be developed over the coming episodes because it's a good chance to educate and shine a light on something that doesn't often get shown. There's often the debate about which is better, Downton Abbey or the Gilded Age, and I'm firmly on the side of preferring the Gilded Age. I think the drama is just so infectious. The time period, whilst around the same, I think the culture and the type of society is just a bit more entertaining. This season is shaping up to be the best season of the Gilded Age, and I love the focus that Gladys is getting with also the complete change into being a selfish individual that Bertha is having. So, there you have it, the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 3, Ending Explained. If you want to see a full breakdown of this season, then check the playlist below. I'm covering the show every week, so don't forget to subscribe. What did you think of this episode? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.